Welcome. So you've done the work, you've had the breakthroughs, and somehow you keep ending up back where you started. So welcome to Recalibrated for More, where we get to the biological root of why growth doesn't stick and what is actually takes to make your next level permanent. So I'm Jenny Jonte, and this is where real expansion begins. And today I am so pleased to welcome Ashriel to join us today and share about her work, which is in just beautiful alignment to the work that I've been doing and what this podcast is all about. So, if you could share about yourself, your journey, and tell us who you are and what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Jenny. And thank you for having me on here. It's kind of a random meetup that we had. And then we started talking about all the things that we love to do and our passions and our work. And all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, we need to have this conversation on air because it's just that good. So,
Yes.
with that, yes, I am Ashriel Huber. I am a mom, I am an educator, I am now an author of Love Moves, a book, which still feels a little surreal, to be honest. Thank you. But honestly, at the core of everything I do is just this deep passion for helping women experience their lives differently, not just survive them. So
Yeah.
a lot of my work, it sits at this intersection of faith, neuroscience, and emotional health, and just this nervous system regulation that we can bring into our everyday lives, which I mean, if you listen to this, that sounds very official. You're going, wow, Ash, unless you realize that most of my inspiration came from being an overwhelmed mom trying not to cry in a Walmart parking lot. I'm just going to be really honest about that.
Yes.
I just became fascinated by this idea that we can love God deeply and yet still feel emotionally exhausted. We can be
Mhm.
reactive, we can be anxious, we can be disconnected and just stuck in survival mode. So, over time, I started creating these really simple guided practices that combine movement, prayer, reflection, and that nervous system support, and just really practical, easy ways for our everyday lives. And that eventually became the book Love Moves, which is a 6 minute inside out makeover for your mind, your body, your spirit. It's these little small shifts, real peace, just one thought at a time. Keep it with just one, Jenny, just one.
I love this. And I feel like pretty much every mom in the world can relate to this because we just feel so pulled at every single direction. And we desire to be everything that we can as a spouse and as a mom and as an educator and as an employee if you're working for somebody or as an owner of your own business. And it's like, okay, at some point it just kind of breaks, right? And before we have that breakdown in the parking lot, what are there simple things that you can do in relation to this that you created with Love Moves that can just give us that moment to bring us back and bring some of that peace back into our lives?
Mm, I like that question, especially
Mm.
because I think it has to even get dialed back a little bit before that, that we have to be aware that we need to ask ourselves that question. Because if you believe that awareness determines your experience, which I do, I really do, then
Mhm.
I also believe that awareness changes your experience. So when we can become aware, when we can bring from the subconscious things into our awareness, now we can do something with them. And I think the biggest thing with awareness is that we don't recognize that we're living stressed. We don't
Yeah.
recognize that we're living overwhelmed. We don't recognize we're disconnected because we've just normalized it.
Yes.
And I had this moment where I was like, wait a minute. I've been living my entire adult life in this one pattern, thinking that I'm just living a little stressed, a little overwhelmed, and it was normal. But then I had
Mhm.
this moment when I realized and I had that awareness that I was like, oh no, this is different. And I'm pretty sure when that happened, it happened on a Tuesday because I think most really terrifying things happen on Tuesdays around 11 p.m. I have this big memory of laying on my mattress. It wasn't even my mattress. It was a borrowed mattress in my parents' basement. And I was sobbing. I was sobbing. It was like 2 in the morning because my life felt completely unmanageable, just
Wow.
unmanageable. We bought what we thought was our dream home. We're like, yeah, let's do this.
Yes.
And it turned out, oh, Jenny, it was a nightmare. I'm talking like
Mm.
mold, termites, plumbing
Oh
disasters,
my
structural
gosh.
issues, yes, and like thousands of dollars. I'm like, yeah, we're just stapling the ceiling here. So we
Hmm.
actually had to move in with my parents, and our kids
Wow.
were little at the time, and we're just like, all right, duct tape, we're gonna hold life together. But at the
Yeah.
same time, which people didn't see internally, I felt not that it was true, but I felt like I was failing everywhere. I
Yeah.
felt like I was failing as a mom. I felt like I was failing as a leader. I was exhausted in my body. Peace was not even something I thought about.
Yeah.
And I remember laying on that mattress, like my tissue mountain was very impressive. And I thought, this cannot be how life is supposed to feel.
Mm-mm.
And the truth is, what I was experiencing, it was very real. It felt very real, but it wasn't the full truth. And
Yes.
I think that was that moment of awareness that became the beginning of this whole journey of learning that
Mhm.
God wasn't inviting me into a life of constant fear or striving or overwhelm and survival mode. He was
Yes.
inviting me into connection. He was inviting me into peace and into learning how to actually experience my life through his love instead of through my constant stress or my constant fear. And that is what changed everything for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I can like just, I can picture you. You're a beautiful storyteller, but also I can relate because remember this very specific moment myself, sitting on my friend's couch, just completely losing it, having this experience where I had never felt such overwhelm in my whole life, right? And I think we all have those moments where it's like the complete breakdown, like I can't possibly take on another thing. And then but it's almost like it's necessary. Like I was in that moment, I was like, this is the worst thing ever. All of these things that are happening, everything that's going on. But looking back, I'm like, it's like I needed to have my head hit against a wall. Like I had to reach that level, or like they would say rock bottom, or whatever that is for each person, in order to know that, like you said, this isn't what we're meant to be doing, right? We're meant to live a life of joy, of peace. Like
Yes.
we weren't designed to live complete stress and exhaustion in every day, right? So, but sometimes it takes a little bit for us to get that message.
For me, it took a lot of it, but I'm hopeful for the rest of the audience out there, it'll just take you a little bit. But when we talk about that, like even hearing your story, you're talking about sitting on the couch, that brokenness, that fear of feeling alone, and that there's you cannot handle one more thing. First of all, thank you for sharing that because that is so brave. And then even me sharing my mattress story, I
Yes.
think the reality is if we could just, pick up a phone and talk to every woman or man, I don't know what your audience is, that's listening out there and we go, okay, have you had that moment? I think we'd
Yeah.
start to hear the stories come in. And I think when we share those stories, we go, wait a minute, I'm actually not alone. First of all, this is part of our human experience. And second of all, it doesn't mean something's wrong with me. My brain's just doing what my brain is supposed to do. It's keeping me safe, bless it. But there's a different way we can look at it, and there's a different way we can show up and live our lives. So I like that we're talking about what survival mode actually looks like for us
Yes.
and that we're normalizing it. Because for me, it's like,
Mhm.
you know what? It's like snapping at your kids and feeling guilty. It's like
Yes.
doom scrolling while I'm exhausted. And then I look up 2 hours later and I go, what have I done with my life? It's feeling constantly behind. It's like being in the shower and like rethinking that conversation from third grade. And you're like, I got
Yeah.
to get it right. It's like when we sit down and we're going to rest, but we don't fully rest. Or we try and pray, but our brain is like going on a marathon over here. Or we get numb, or we get reactive, or we get anxious, or we get really emotionally overloaded. And I think women, I don't know, I think your audience, they seem like these really high capacity, ambitious, beautiful women. I think women especially become
Yes.
incredibly high functioning when they're in survival mode. So everyone around us thinks, they're just doing great. While internally, we
Hmm.
feel so buried. So we got to
Yeah.
get the stories out there. Let's hear about your mattress story, your couch
Yeah.
story,
I love that.
so we can live
Yes.
life differently, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny, we were watching Bluey the other day of all things, but it was
Yeah, I
the
love
one
Louis
where it's so relatable. They go on vacation, right? I think it's called Relax, maybe even. And mom goes down to try to relax at the beach, and she comes back and she's like, she's so sad. She's like, I don't know how to relax. I'm like, I know. Because we're so used to being in this heightened state, right? We're in the sympathetic nervous system the vast majority of the time. We don't even know what it feels like to release and actually live in the parasympathetic, which is where we're supposed to be the majority of the time. The sympathetic is meant to be those moments. It's there, it's important, it's necessary, but it's not supposed to be sustained, right? It's not, you can't stay there. So,
Yeah, we drift and end up staying there, I think, so often, which is
yes,
why so many of us end up in burnout. And I think
yes,
you're right. We think, oh, the sympathetic state that we're in, it's our body's stress response. We're going, okay, this is fine. We're functioning. We're getting the things done. So we think it's okay. And we just keep going. And I
yeah,
think that's why that awareness is that first step. You know, we talk about it. We're like, hey, am I crazy? And we're like, no, no, you're not crazy. Oh, good. I'm not crazy either. Good. Because it
yes,
sounds that I feel good. But then I think you really hit on something is our bodies get into this sympathetic state and then they stay there and we try and live our lives. And I think
yes,
that's what I really noticed with the work with Love Moves. When I wrote this book, it's this idea with our nervous systems. We keep trying to think our way out of problems and we keep trying
yes.
to just be okay, but our bodies do not understand our words. They understand things like breath, movement. That's what speaks
Mhm.
to our bodies. So, and we're trying to make decisions out of our survival mode brain, which is no good. We need to get into our thinking
Right.
brain to make decisions because you cannot talk your body out of panic. So
Mm.
sometimes I think these women are trying so hard to say, you know, think differently, but their
Yeah.
nervous systems are screaming, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, this is not
Mhm.
safe, I'm very dysregulated. So that's a big shift that I think we can all realize. Like you said, God designed our bodies to participate in peace too. For our
Yeah.
long term sustainability, it should be in our parasympathetic state. And in order to get to that state, we need to kind of give that little workout to our body because our body needs safety before the mind can receive the truth fully. So once we get our body safe, we shift back into our parasympathetic state. We've just closed our stress cycle. Now we can actually go back into our prefrontal lobe, go into our thinking brain, and make better decisions and actually feel better, which I think is huge. We would like to feel better more often. We just don't
Yes.
realize that we're maybe not feeling the best in the moment.
Yes. Oh, I just completely agree because previously, before I made these big transitions and like took that leap of faith, and created this whole new system, I was working as what I would just say was basically a mindset coach. But there was something all the while that was just getting at me underneath it. I was like, why is it that I'm still seeing so many people that are like living this cycle, living this pattern where like they're focusing so hard. They're in the cognitive, like you said, and they're just like, if I just think new thoughts, if I just think new thoughts, and I just can like force it to happen. But
Yeah.
like you can't force, you have to get at that deeper level. And I think we have really just kind of ignored the emphasis that should be put on our body and our biological systems because it becomes this cohesiveness, right? Where then our biology is going to take over. Like you said, it is there to protect you, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. But when we have it calibrated at this lower level where we're in these, negative emotions or this stressful state, or we think this is what we're capable of, this is it, and then we try to do something outside of it, we try to force it, right? We try to get in the cognitive and try to make something happen. And we wonder why we keep snapping back because we haven't done anything to actually shift and recalibrate that biological set point. And I think that's where this work just, you know, blends so beautifully together. So you can, recalibrate, you can settle your nervous system in the moment. You can use these beautiful techniques that you've created with the love moves. And then you can use that to help recalibrate for an expanded level. So now you can get to that new level and you can hold it. And your body can actually say, yes, I know this. This feels familiar. I can withstand this level of expansion instead of just continuing to cycle through. It's like a terrible cycle.
No, but I love that because again, what you're really hitting on here is that we want to build the capacity because
Yes.
what we are in one season, we don't want to stay the same. We have the
Yeah.
beautiful neuroplasticity. God made our brains so they're very stretchy. And so over time and consistency, they can be retrained and they can be, reshaped. And so I love the idea that we can grow our capacity. So it's not that things get easier, we just get a little bit stronger, right? I think there's some quote out there about that. But it is true. When we do grow our capacity, then we can hold it more. And I think the hard part is so many people get kind of stuck in that middle. That if they might get to that awareness stage and they go, okay, maybe it could be better, but then they do a few things and they're like, well, I'm not really seeing any changes. So I'm just going to go back to what I've always done, right? They go back
Yeah.
to one, it's
Mhm.
automatic, it's easy, let's just do it. But it's like we want to get women to get into that messy middle where they go, okay, it's not feeling how I want it to, it's not looking it, but there's hope. And now I have
Yeah.
a process that I can go through so I can get to the other side like a bridge. And literally, that's why I created Love Moves, not just the book, but the actual framework, the 6-minute guided inside out makeover. Because when we try and make over our lives to experience lives more beautifully, we start with the outer things. Maybe we'll go get a haircut,
Mhm.
put on some teeth whitening strips. I don't know. But what really changes our life is when we start to do our makeover from the inside out, from how we're
Mhm.
actually feeling, working with our physiology. And that's why I created it. So do you want to know what my tool is? Do you want to hear about it?
Yes, of course.
I was like, oh, I want to tell Jenny all about it. See your thoughts, all that fun stuff. So a love move is basically a very simple practice because we are very busy people and we do not have a lot of time.
True.
And it combines movement because we got to talk to the body first to calm it down,
Yeah.
and then prayer, and then nervous support system, and then reflection to help women really shift how they're experiencing their lives in real time. So on my podcast called and Curious, we have a lot of stories. I tell a lot of stories, but to help us understand our brains and our bodies and our faith better.
Mhm.
And so with that, we talk about how we don't always need more inspirational quotes. We actually just need a really easy tool to help us move out of the stress and the
Yeah.
overwhelm and the shutdown. So, what a love move does, instead of trying to just think differently, it involves the body. So we move their body, they start moving, and I walk them through all of it. Then we redirect their attention because, we have our unconscious. It's at best, we're 95% in our unconscious. We have about maybe 5%, even that's very high, but we need to pull
Mhm.
all that stuff out of our unconscious, and we do that through questions. So we have really good questions that spotlight where we want to train our brain. And then we train our nervous system, whether it's going to be up or down somatically to kind of reduce that stress response. And
Yeah.
then we use those really good questions to renew our mind in truth. And then we return
Mhm.
to God. So I always tell women it's kind of like pressing pause on survival mode for 6 minutes and remembering who you are and whose you are. So just one thought at a time. Keep it very simple, but it is the easiest way I think you can possibly start a day because when I get up in the
Yeah.
morning, within the first 60 minutes, I will go do my 6 minutes outside because I got to get sunshine on my eyeballs. And when I do that love move out there, I am already decreasing my stress response. I am already starting out the day ready and I am in my parasympathetic state and I'm able to actually go feel better in my day, make better decisions. And yeah, I just love it.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And I've noticed that for myself as well. I need to have that morning time, like
Mhm.
away
Yes.
from it in my own energy. So yes, it
Yes.
means I have to get up earlier before the rest of the family. And if they get up early, I'm like, wait, no, you're infringing on my time.
Go back to
I
bed. Go back to bed.
But I love that you've created something that makes it easy to do in the morning. You can fit it in. You don't have to get up an hour earlier necessarily, but you can just get up a little bit earlier. So it's very doable. And it really does. I feel like I can tell it just set you up for success for the day. Like it just puts you in a totally different frame of mind. You can shift your perspective. And I feel like it's something that you could do at other points in your day because it's so short. If you find yourself falling back into some of those higher levels of stress when it's not necessary, or falling back into some emotional patterns where they don't need to be there anymore, they're not needed, right? And so you can just jump into that, if I'm understanding right, and let yourself reset and change the perspective, change, the trajectory of where that was headed.
Jenny, that is amazing right there because you are spot on because you just took it from what we do in the morning, which absolutely we need a good pre-frame so we're not starting from scarcity, we're not starting in our sympathetic state. I am so with you on that. And yes, I have tried to put myself back to bed many times when I'm like, I'm with Jesus and I'm working out, son, go down. Like, So I'm like, oh, that's fun. But then you took it to this whole next level of that throughout our days, we can start having more awareness when we slip into
Yeah.
our fear states. And I think that's that big part of, okay, we started our day off great, but maybe something happened in the day, or this happened, or, our brain or our nervous system had a big hard conversation and it didn't know it wasn't a bear or something. So we have to come back and help regulate it and get it to calm back down. So I love this idea that you're saying that, yeah, we use love moves in the morning, that tool to start our day off
Hmm.
right. But when things start to slip and the fear starts to come back in, we're not left helpless.
Yes.
We're not stuck. We have something we can do so we can regulate and come back to that parasympathetic state and go back into our day and enjoy it.
Yes, yes. I love that. And I think shifting perspective is probably one of the biggest things, right? And I feel like this would allow you enough time to get that pause where you could genuinely shift your perspective, not through trying to force it again in the cognitive, like I should be grateful. Like when the snow happened, right? We were discussing here in Colorado, we just got a lot of snow and it made me feel sad. And so I could sit there and say, I'm happy about this, but I'm not happy about it, right? So I couldn't force myself. I'm like, yes, we have moisture, which we desperately need, right? Yes, that is absolutely true. But why can't it be rain? Like,
Brain, if
but
we
it,
mechanism, that would be really nice. I love this.
but anyway, so I digress. But just the point is, I would not be able to push myself and force myself to just like cognitively do it. But if I took the time to sit and shift that perspective and actually get into the body and the nervous system and allow it to feel something different, which then I feel like the cascade is the opposite of what I've been taught, which you can probably even see. I in the back, I got the sick person because I was trained through Proctor Gallagher Institute, which is all about mindset, right? And using your cognitive mind to suppress your subconscious mind, which then would go into your body and out. But the more research I do, the more I see in people, I experience, I feel like it has become the opposite. Your mind and your subconscious are really tied together. I don't feel that there's a separation, honestly. And I feel like that is the way it goes separately. So now it's like your body starts to feel these familiar emotions, right? It starts to feel that stress, the worry, the fear, the anxiety, all those things, the doubt. And then it causes different thoughts to come up. Whereas then when I can get in and I can shift how I'm feeling and calm my nervous system, and then I can change my perspective. Because as you were describing before, now you can clearly get into the frontal lobe without these other things blurring the vision, if you will, like distracting from what it is that you really want. You get more clarity, I think, when you can calm your body and change things from that way. So I hope this is making sense. Kind of an opposite cascade of what I've been previously
And
trained.
that's, we all learn things, then we relearn things, and then they find out new
Yeah.
things. And I think it's fascinating. And I love hearing about the different research. When I went for my certification for neuroscience, it's only in behavioral neuroscience, but it was fascinating to hear kind of where they got their information from too. And
Yeah.
kind of how I try and describe it to people is like, imagine, and this is like a worst case scenario for everyone in their lives, but we put like 20 toddlers around you and we gave them all noisemakers. And we're like, okay, what I really want you to do is I want you to sit here and take this test. And that person sitting there trying to take this test, they're like, well, I'm trying to make cognitive decisions and I'm trying to figure out the right answer, but everything around me doesn't feel good. They're probably like wincing and they're probably like covering their ears and doing all these things and they're so distracted. And it's like, okay, our body is the environment for our brains. So if everything is crazy around, we're not going to
Yeah.
be able to make the right decisions. So we have to start with
Yes.
our environment first, and then we can go into our thinking brain because we're not thinking when we're in a stress response. We think we are.
Yes.
We're just making
Yes.
very limited decisions. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing I really like that you talk about, because it just really showed the perspective so well. We talked about the snow. So if you don't know Colorado, our weather is known for being opinionated. It comes and goes in a 24-hour cycle, and we're just left going, wow, eating our popcorn. So we have not had much snow at all in Colorado this year. just spoiler alert. And so Colorado waited till May. It was like, you know what? We're going to wait till May and then we will have some snow. So all around us, you could see like this division of people. And I was like, yay, snow. So she texted me and she's like, oh, the snow. And I was like, you know, isn't it great? And she's like, no, no, it is
No.
not. And it's like, you know what? Here's the exact same situation, same circumstance. The
Mhm.
snow was the same. I'm sure her house, my house, we had a similar flake.
Yep.
And yet we both had a different experience of that snowstorm.
Yes.
And I think that's the exact same way when we look at our lives. So
Mhm.
I was working with this dear sweet woman, and I always start out some of our work where I go, "Yeah, just tell me something really good that happened today. I'd love to hear what went on in your day." And she thought about it. She really looked around, and I'm talking not moments, like minutes here. And she is just, you can see on her face, she is thinking. Every thinking part of her body is showing up there,
Oh my
and she
gosh.
goes, "Well, nothing good happened today." And
Oh.
worked through it. We found a rose. We did all those things. But that perspective right there, that's what so many of us sit in. We go, well,
Mhm.
there's nothing good there. So what
Mhm.
I really like to work with women on when we talk about like that snow perspective is
Yes.
you have a beautiful life. Like I
Mhm.
have a beautiful life. You have a beautiful life. But maybe you're not seeing it that way, so you're not experiencing it that way. And I think
Mhm.
often that, when we say the word beautiful life, we think, well, that means maybe a perfect life. But to me,
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
beautiful life is a connected life. It is a present life. It is a life where you actually notice the goodness. You notice God. You notice your people around you. You notice your own heart again. And in
Mhm.
my work, I love using this metaphor of our mind as a garden
Mhm.
because whatever we repeatedly focus on, what are we watering, what we're rehearsing, what we revisit mentally over and over begins to shape our experience. And the
Yeah.
hard part is that our brains are naturally scanning for the problems and the threats. We're like almost 70% negative up here, which means that without intention, like we're not doing it on purpose. We're not
Mhm.
like, well, I would like to live from fear today. I'd like to be highly anxious. Oh, I'd like to be a little insecure. I'm going to
Yes.
compare myself to some people. I'd like to be stressed. And you know what? This feels like the perfect day for emotional survival mode. Just book me that one. I love it. We're not doing that. We're not like planning our days
Not
around
into
being more
no.
stressed.
Yeah.
But if we're not intentionally growing a more beautiful life,
Yes.
one thought at a time, then we are living from that fear mode, from that fear brain. So when we are intentional, when we say, okay, you know what? I want that inside out makeover. I want to grow a more beautiful life. That means to gently start learning to redirect your attention back towards truth. It's
Yeah.
moving that body, it's working together with how we were designed and coming back again, and not
Mhm.
perfectly, because that's just not going to happen, just intentional.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I think too, with that, not relying on external circumstances before you feel the joy, right? So, like, even
Right?
though I was not a fan of the snow, I wasn't angry, right? Like, I still felt joy and I'm still very grateful for my life. But, there were times in the past where that would not have been the case, right? I would have let something like that completely derail me. I would have relied completely on outside circumstances to determine how I felt, instead of I already know all of this from within, and then now I just live my life, right? But it's hard to make that distinction. I think so often we are reactive to life instead of creating life, right? Like we get to be the dictators of how our life goes. And I love seeing this, like you said, we're so much in the negative and we're just kind of programmed that way because this is what we see all the time, right? Like our family was in town for something this weekend, both sides, so there was a lot going on. But just listening and I'm like, boy, now I know why I got all of these things, right? Like it's the immediate to the negative, anything that happens, right? Anybody that doesn't, with the driving, with the this, with the, it's everything, right? It's just jumps right to, well, this would only happen to me, this kind of talk. And I'm like, okay, well, that's so everybody says, so I guess it's not just you. But I love it. And I love that. Just as an example, our daughter, she was been talking about she does gymnastics and she comes back and she's like, man, like everybody is like they complain a lot. Like they just have, they have so much negative things to say, and I don't think it's that bad. I just, like, it's so fun to see it. She's 10, and like, because I talk to her so much about this kind of stuff and like our perspective and trying to pause before we react and try, all of these things, she can see it already in other people and how they just react and complain and like see everything is so bad and negative. And I'm like, well, I love that you're already starting to shift how you see things and you're not reacting as much. I'm like, I hope that sets you up for like, it took me a lot longer in life to get there, but I think that's such an important aspect with this.
Well, I think it's beautiful because what you've done with your children is you haven't limited them to just
Mm.
a negative perspective, which is, it's very normal. Like, let's normalize it. That's what our brains are doing. Bless them. They're keeping us safe. But we don't have a lot of bears out there anymore. So now we have modern fears that we encounter. And I think being able to equip our kids to be successful and confident in that is huge. Like, that's starting early. Like, we did not get that. Like, children of the 80s, like, we were,
No,
we're
no.
raising wild over here. So, we get all up in our feelings and we're just now starting to reprogram. So that's
Hmm.
right when we can start them young because, I'm not to just get on a tangent, but I am in the early childhood education field. So that's real big for me for like wiring properly at the beginning instead of having to do all
Yeah,
the work at the end too. But
yeah.
you're also talking about teaching your children about a lifestyle of
Mm.
noticing when maybe their thoughts are going negative or other people's are, and that it could be a different way. So even that your daughter at 10 can do that, that is incredible.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes as she gets older. Teenage years are coming, so it might not be, but still, hopefully, it'll be good seeds planted for that in the future. So, um, yeah, I feel like we could just chat on this forever, but I do like to try to keep things, a little shorter just for everybody's attention span. But maybe we could even continue the conversation another time later and just continue to share because there's so much just a beautiful wealth of information here. And I love the alignment in our work. And I feel like everybody's starting to wake up. I'm starting to see this more. People are understanding that we can't neglect the body in this, that there's so much more to it. It's not just, I call it superficial because it's really just at the surface, right? The mindset. Not that our mindset doesn't matter, but there's so much more that we need to make sure we're addressing as well. So if you could just kind of wrap up a little bit, what are some of the key things that you really want to make sure that people hear today that they can take away from? We've heard the explanation of the love moves and at least a brief description of it. Of course, also share how they can get a hold of your book as well, because that's very exciting. Um, and just how we can implement this right away.
Yes. Oh, I love all of it. First of all, I'm very proud of you. Keeping me from talking too long is its own gift. So I was very impressed. Nicely done. And I love that you talked about like this idea that, we can do this stuff together. People are waking up to it because I actually have a book companion where it's like women get together, study the book, and they do a love move every single time each week when they get together. And
Oh,
at first I was like, wait, is this going to be weird? And then I was like, no, like, look what all the things we normalize. We normalize coming over to have drinks. We normalize, coming over to do
mm,
XYZ. Why would we not normalize as women coming over, getting together and working out our nervous system so we just feel better? And then we can have our coffee, however it needs to work.
I love
But
that.
I don't know. If I would say one thing to your audience out there, I would just say start small. Like, don't
Mm,
overhaul your whole life. Don't pressure yourself to become a completely different person overnight. Just begin creating tiny moments of intentional peace. Because honestly, that's why I wrote Love Moves.
mm,
It's kind of this blend between a devotional, a guided reset, and a portable gym for your nervous system. And truly, my hope is that women don't just read it. I hope they use it. I
yeah.
hope it gets highlighted, written in, cried over, coffee stained. I am praying it becomes a companion that helps them experience their lives more beautifully. And honestly, I don't care if you buy the book, go get it at the library, whatever it is. But my encouragement is give yourself a little space to experience life differently. Notice
Mm.
what's good, calm your body, return your attention to truth, and start planting little sweet things in your mind garden. Like these tiny moments, they really matter more than we think they do. So yes, come get the book on Amazon, Love Moves. That would be amazing. The audiobook is coming out. I actually narrated the audiobook. Heaven help us. I don't know how it turned out. We're just going to all listen and see. If you press pause on it, that's okay.
I'm sure
Um,
it's amazing.
it's it's gonna be good. And then the other one is if you would want to come hang out on Called and Curious, I have my podcast over there, and we're all about lots of stories, a little brain science, a little Jesus, and we just kind of figure out our lives together. So yeah, I would love to have you guys come join. Oh, I can also send you a love move, so they can actually go and press play and have their own love move. I can send that to you if it works out. You let me know.
I love that. Yes, we can add all of this in the description and show notes that you have access to everything and get in touch. I can't talk. Get in touch with Ashriel and learn more about this. I'm just so excited. And thank you so much for being here. It has been a true pleasure. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know is ready to just stop starting over, is ready to stop living in this heightened state in their nervous system. And just remember that your next level isn't a breakthrough away, it is just a recalibration away. So I will see you all next time. Thank you.